It's the Abba podcast. Let's go. So we're live on episode 1 podcast with Damien, the Beatdown Brown. Damien, how you going, mate?
Good, man. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. How's the new year looking for you, mate? 21, COVID?
Oh man, it's horrible already. It's you know what? It's I'm pumped. I think everyone thought things were just going to change overnight, but they're not. But life's always good.
No,
It
God
can never
bless
be
you.
bad.
So you're owner of Base Training Gym out in Brisbane. As a gym owner in times like this, how's it been?
Look, man, in Queensland, we've been very fortunate. I think us, along with everyone else in the first lockdown, we had 10 weeks. And I think most of us thought that we were going to lose everything. And, you know, it was just as tough for us as it was for everyone else. But fortunately, the government's controlled it since. They're pretty quick with the lockdown of the borders and stuff like that. And they seem to have a reasonable handle on it. You know, it's still frustrating. You know, I compete overseas mostly now, so that's difficult from a competition point of view. You know, I don't know if I'll fight again or when I'll fight again. I just turned 36, so you know, being a gym owner and that, I've always got other things to keep you busy. But yeah, see what happens. But
Talking about busy, you've got quite a resume, mate. An Army veteran, UFC veteran. You're a current rising star, gym owner, as we said. Something I feel that's a bit glossed over with your career is your time in the Army. Now, you look overseas and people like Tim Kennedy, they're glorified for the time they've given back to the country, as well as being a prize fighter such as yourself. How did that help you in the transition, the pressures of being in Afghanistan, which you were deployed, to the pressures of being in the octagon?
I just feel like mentally, I wouldn't say physically it helps you any different, because, you know, everyone's physically gifted or they work hard and make up for what they're not. But I feel like mentally, that when the military prepares you to sacrifice your life to fight, that can't be replaced. You know, some of these athletes, they've only ever known that athlete life. You know what I mean? Their mentality is, this is what I do for work. I feel like if truly put in a situation where, you know, they like to use the words like when one goes to war, we all go to war and shit like that. But like the reality is, it's all just entertainment, and none of them are mentally where a former soldier's at. They're literally prepared to die. Like that's the mentality. That's how you train.
That's very true.
So I think that's the part that probably is the most beneficial for any soldier that then goes on to compete.
So yeah, no, that's a fair point. You do see that Conor McGregor says, if we go to war, everyone goes to war. Nate Diaz, kill or be killed. But really, these people that tap in, it's a totally different arena, like you would be aware of yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's entertainment. You know, like it's prize fighting. That's the business. You got to say what you got to say, and you got to, you know, pump a fight up and build your profile, and that's what they're doing.
That's very true.
The reality, when you sit back and think about it, is the spoon-fed kids that, you know, really aren't ever going to do that, or they would have.
Mate, you're a Queenslander. We've seen on Twitter you've had something to say about a New South Welshman in Paul Gallen. If I'm not mistaken...
Well, I'm going to let you in on a secret.
Hit me.
All right. I am a traitor. I was born in New South Wales and I can't stand him. And that goes to Paul Gallen as well. And he's the reason, man. I find that I've always, you know, probably like really comes back to my parents supported Brisbane Broncos in Queensland, and they're born down there as well. And so, you know, most of the thing with most kids is they support, you know, who their parents support, or like they're heavily. My son's a Broncos supporter. He wears Broncos shorts. He wears Broncos shirts. You know, Broncos everything. Broncos footballs. He's got 3 of them. So it's really that's where it starts. But the reality is, I always felt like, and especially with the interactions I've had with former New South Wales players, is I just feel like they're arrogant, and I feel like Queenslanders are a bit more chill, and they're a bit more, I don't know, approachable, and that I'd rather just support that kind of person. And I just feel like the vibe that I get from a New South Wales team is arrogance. So and that's as a viewer. So I've always felt that. So yeah, man, I'll never support New South Wales.
So you weren't impressed with his performance against Mark Hunt? I read on Twitter you called him a flog. You called him out for calling out Rob Whittaker. What's your comments on that?
Well, I mean, I didn't call him out, but I did. Like, I called him out on his comment. You know, I think that he's, I don't know, like, I get what he's doing. He's making $750,000 to $1 million paydays in post-retirement footy, fighting people who are from the combat sports world who aren't boxers. Like, it's very smart. It's smart business. But I just think that, I mean, Rob Whittaker pieces him up anyway. But it's like, I just think that calling out someone who competes at middleweight, whether he walks around at 100 kilos or not, he fights it for 84 kilos. And Gallen just fought at 100, and he's like, oh, let's fight. Like, it just seems like I don't know, it's a fucking dick move. Like, it's a weird thing to do.
Yeah, caught me by surprise watching on the feed. I'm like, he's calling out Rob. Rob's a top 5 middleweight. He's in contention for the title. I do know that they share the same jiu-jitsu coach, strength and conditioning. They have spent some time together. So they're practically teammates in some sense of the imagination. It did come out of the blue.
Which obviously doesn't matter to Paul, right?
Because that's what shocked me. I'm like,
didn't he used to drink coffee with Mark Hunt?
That's true. That's true. And look, I thought he was calling out Sonny. Bill Williams was a perfect time, like, to call him out. That was your spotlight. I don't know where he came up with Rob.
Because he'll get pieced up because Sonny can fight.
Yeah, so Sonny's an athlete.
So I just think that, you know, I can see the business sense behind his movement and his call out, but I just think it was dumb. And so obviously I put a post up that said he was a fucking flog. And then, you know, there was some back and forth. I'm guessing, you know, guys from the Shire on Twitter that didn't take to it too well, which is fine. Like, you know, that's what Twitter is, man. It's a pit full of back and forth abuse and trolls, and I'm all for it, man. That's why I'm on it. But then I made another comment about it, and then 3 days later I started getting messages telling me that I was in the Courier Mail and the Daily Telegraph and News.com, and fucking the list goes on. There was about 6 media sites.
Yeah, and, you can't talk about a New South Welshman. They all jumped on you. There wasn't a media outlet that didn't jump on you.
Well, of course they all jumped on me. It was like a big gang fight.
Paul Gallen's a national treasure in New South Wales.
I stand my ground.
No, listen, I think
I stand by my words. I do think that, but I do see I'm from the business, that side of things, and that's the way I think as well. And I see what he's doing, but I still think he's a flog.
Yeah, look, what he's doing, you see it overseas now. Logan Paul's fighting Floyd Mayweather. Where does that happen? You've got all these YouTube stars that are coming out, and like you said, it's a business these days. But in Australia, one of the first to do so was Anthony Chock Mundine, and geez, he didn't get any backing from the media outlets either. No, I mean, you know, but the difference between Mundine and Gallen is Mundine fought boxers. Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? Mundine's a good boxer. I won a lot of money on Mundine over the years. So when you see through all the fluff and all the entertainment and all the shit they talk and all that sort of stuff, you know, he was a very good boxer. He probably should have retired a little while ago, but he's a very good boxer. And, you know, he went on to do good things. And whether it was good or bad, he kind of kept Australian boxing alive, you know. Like, I'm not a massive boxing fan myself. I train with Thai boxers, and stuff like that, and boxers. And I couldn't tell you much about that side of the combat sports world because I'm so focused on MMA. But there's certain fights that I'll tune in to watch, and you know, I wouldn't these days, but I used to always pay for a Mundine fight. You know, I'd buy a Mundine fight over a Danny Green fight. So it is what it is. Like, it's people want to see him win or they want to see him lose, and that's the way it is.
Yeah, that's similar to the Floyd Mayweather route, I guess. Pays the bills to be like that, like you said.
Man, you know, like, it's like they can hate you all they want, but they either pay for you to win or they pay for you to lose. Either way, they pay for you, and that's the business.
That's 100% true. So you've went from the Army to the UFC. Explain that transition, because from what I've seen in interviews previous that you said that the Army wasn't too easy on giving you time off when fight camp came in and when the week of the fight happened.
No, well, the Army, it's a bit different these days because they got combatives programs and, you know, jiu-jitsu programs and stuff like that. But when I was in the Army, I've been out for just under 8 years, and they wouldn't support you doing like combat sports. It's the Army is weird. Like, they'll let you go on rugby union trips and rugby league trips, and they'll let chicks play netball and all that sort of stuff because they seen it as like not combat, so to speak. Yeah. Which is crazy because the principal goal of the military is combat. You know what I mean? Like, so to not support someone in a hand-to-hand combat sport when that's their job seems absolutely ludicrous to me, and it's very political, obviously. But they didn't really support it. So when I was fighting locally, it was okay because I'd just take Friday off and go cut weight, weigh in, and fight on the Saturday, and I'd always make sure I had my weekends off or whatever. But once I started getting a couple of fight offers overseas, more particularly, I got a fight offer before I got out to fight in Abu Dhabi on what is now, I believe, UAE Warriors, but was Abu Dhabi Warriors, I think, in its first card. And I got an offer to fight Kazunori Yokota, who's, at the time, he was like 15-5-5 or something, Japanese legend at the time. And I hadn't been in the UFC, and I thought, man, this is my shot. And the money was good, man. And anywhere you fight in the UAE, the money is good. So at the time, I thought, yeah, this is my shot. And they knocked my leave back, so I couldn't travel. Oh, and that was kind of like the part where, you know, I had a lot of things going on. I'd been deployed and that, and I probably should have got out anyway. But fighting was a bit of a coping mechanism for me. I really felt like it helped keep me balanced. It helped stimulate me and things like that. So it really sort of made me sit back and go, well, what's the priority now? Is the priority the military, or is the priority family and fighting? And I made a decision there and then that I wanted to fight in the UFC. And so that was a big reason, one of the big reasons why I made that transition. But yeah, they're just not, they weren't super supportive back in the day of people doing combat sports. You know, I assume it's got a lot to do with brain injuries, but the whole point of the military is to have a high capability, you know. So an injured soldier is not a capable soldier and not deployable. So I can understand it, but when you compare it to the other sports and the injury rate of other sports, it seems a little crazy.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you say that, because like I said earlier on, Tim Kennedy in America is put on a pedestal because he's got that crossover, you know, where he can have the backing of the people, where the people see this fella on TV and they also know that he's an accredited Army veteran who's given back to the country. So I find it really interesting, like you said, that they wouldn't actually be backing you in that sense. What's the difference over your time in the Army, ego-wise, compared to fighters? Do you think that there's a problem or a stigma that lies that someone may believe that they're bigger than the badge? Likewise, in the MMA circle, do you feel when someone's a pro, how do you think that affects them?
I think that both soldiers and fighters need to have an ego, because an ego fuels your confidence. And I think that if you're not confident in your own ability and you don't feel 10 foot tall and bulletproof, then you're going to get hurt in either job. I don't think that guys should ever feel like they're bigger than the badge. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not bigger than the army, but you should feel confident enough in your job that you should walk around with a chip on your shoulder. But I think that's that environment. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you compared that same ego and confidence to the local office worker, you'd be like, you don't need to be 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, I understand.
You're punching a keyboard kind of thing, and or making phone calls. So it's like, when you're looking at the job, I mean, the job I did in the army was infantry, and you're like front line. So you need to feel like you can't be killed. It's a weird thing. And with that comes ego and confidence, or like confidence and then ego. And I think that that's just the way it is. That's what you need to be. I think there's a knack to it as a coach to control it inside the gym, because it can create problems when there's too many egos in the gym. So, you know, it's okay to feel like you're better than everyone, but you don't need to prove it. So I think that comes down to a coach to control that. But I think that the athlete themselves, they need to have that ego. And again, I think just from the way they're trained and I guess raised as an athlete by the coaches and the people around them, is that you just need to keep them humble enough that they realize that that's their job, and when they're there to do their job, they can have all the ego they want, but outside of that, they're just a normal person.
That's true, but see, when you see people like Conor McGregor, and the more that success comes with it, the harder it is to pull back that ego and pull back that self, where it's I do this and I own the UFC and I made sure the company got to X amount of dollars. You also see that with soldiers when they get to a certain level. You look at the Afghan war, the documentation that's come out recently about the potential war crimes that Australian soldiers were in and involved in. You see that we had over 30,000 soldiers that are in there, but the investigation only has 50 soldiers. So there are certain people that get to certain levels that they feel that they're above the status quo. So like you said earlier, it is tough to hold back. And look, the barometer's got to be your ethical, your international law. You got to know that you're not above certain groups. How do you feel that? So you feel that it's easy and it's needed, but what's too much?
I've got a very different view to a lot of people on the whole war crimes thing, so I'm gonna reserve my opinion on that. But I do think that it's a very unrealistic comparison when you compare the recent war crimes, what happened, why it happened, and all that sort of stuff to athletes, because there's a lot of things that happened over there, and to tell someone how they should act and what's right and wrong and what international law is while they've got a gun pointed at their head is a very different thing. And I don't think that everyone knows the full story of all that sort of stuff, and I don't think anyone ever will know the full story of all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, nobody can appreciate it. Like, that's why I was asking, like, you don't know until you're there.
Yeah, but I think to think those guys consciously thought they were above the badge would be a bit far-fetched. I don't think that they were ever in that position. I also know that for anyone to turn around and go, I didn't know what my soldiers were doing, is fucking crazy, because everyone knew what was going on over there. So yeah, it's. I think, like, as far as that goes, it's a bit of a touchy one. It's a bit weird, and I've been there, so my opinion's always going to be different to those that haven't. Yeah. But like, guys thinking that they're above the badge as far as athletes go. You see it all the time. It's not uncommon to see guys like Conor McGregor punch an old guy in a bar, or I don't know, just do dumb shit like smash someone's phone. all those sort of things. I think like Israel Adesanya put a post up recently about fucking slapping someone or something like that because he told him no to taking photos.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of these situations where it looks like they're above the badge or above the company, so to speak, is I think the people that are involved in those incidents that make the athlete look bad probably also need to consider the fact that, you know, while they got 5 million followers on Instagram and you can do whatever you want and follow them and look at them and screenshot them and all that sort of stuff, when they're walking down the street, they're just an average person, you know what I mean? Maybe they want to have breakfast and they don't want to take 3,000 photos. So it's like, I think there's a bunch of things going on there. I think Conor McGregor punching a guy because he wouldn't drink a glass of whiskey is a little crazy, but yeah, I don't know. Like I think that if you put 100,000 people in a room, regardless of what industry, if you put 100,000 builders in a room, you're going to get one black duck. If you put 100,000 athletes in a room, you're going to get the same thing. If you put 100,000 soldiers in a room, you're still going to get one that's going to go to jail. It doesn't matter. Like, you're always going to have one that does the wrong thing. People expect that because you represent the military or you represent the police force or you represent the UFC or you represent whatever, that you're some kind of saint that abides by workplace policy and procedures. There's people everywhere with egos that think they're above the law. So it doesn't really matter what job you're in. I think that's...
Yeah, no, that's true. I feel a lot of people forget that when they see you on TV and they see you on, you know, you've made the UFC or you're an army veteran, they do put you on a pedestal that's a bit unfair because at the end of the day, like you said, we're all humans, we're all the same. We go through the same challenges, trials and tribulations. So, yeah, no, I agree with you on that one.
I also understand that, like, you know, we have a job to do as role models. Do you know what I mean? Like, I also understand that, you know, it's not all just like, oh, I'm normal, now I'm not fighting. Like, we all got a job to do as role models, but there's give and take from both sides of the fence, you know. But you're always, no matter what you do, no matter how many people you have there, you're always going to have one person that's a terrible human being. And that can't be avoided, no matter how many workplace policy and procedures or UFC code of conducts you put in place, you're always going to have one.
Yeah, so long as that's the exception, not the norm, though. So the norm can't be that in any workplace or any environment, so to say.
No, that's right. But as far as we go all the way back to the start of the conversation with the egos, I think that they need to exist because that's part of fighting.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I do agree, but I do think that it's borderline how you manage that, because you can get above yourself and beyond yourself, and that's when it starts to become a problem. Whereas earlier, like what you said, that's where it's an asset, and that's what makes a fighter a fighter. Someone on the front lines, he's on the front lines for those reasons.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to your UFC. So we've moved on from the army. You've signed on to the UFC. How was that? You've reached the pinnacle of mixed martial arts.
It was awesome, man. I shed a tear. I rang my wife, and it was pure relief. You know, I took the long road. I wasn't one of these guys that made the UFC in 2 years with a 5-0 padded record. Man, I took the fucking long road. I went all the way around the world, took my losses, licked my wounds, went back to the gym, sorted myself out, and I forgot all those around me, and I made sure that no matter what happened, I stayed true to the goals that I set for myself, and that day came, and man, it was like pure ecstasy. It was awesome.
So with that comes obviously the notoriety of Damien Brown, the UFC fighter, beat down Brown. Boy, did you take the fights. Now, your US debut, UFC 201. Explain that one. TKO victory, first round.
Oh, man. Well, it was crazy. It was the first time I'd ever done a full fight camp without work. So I worked full-time my whole career, and then I took 8 weeks off just to get ready for that fight. And, yeah, it was I felt incredible. I felt the best I've ever felt. I was the lightest I've ever felt. First time I used a nutritionist. Man, everything couldn't have been better. And then probably like 3-4 days out from the fight, my wife rang me I was in America. Actually, it's probably like 3 days before the fight because she was about to fly over there, and she told me that we were expecting. So, life was pretty much that's the pinnacle of positivity in life. That 8 weeks was like the best life ever gets, and then it was just topped off 4 or 5 days later with a nice knockout.
Hey, mate, you took it to the Muay Thai striker, and boy, did you make a statement there in America. You go on to have a couple of big victories, and then UFC 114 fight night in Sydney. You get the fight of the night performance. The guy misses weight. Now, usually when a guy misses weight, they have an 80% winning track. So it's actually a benefit for them not to make the weight, to put their body through more strain. So explain the split decision loss. I was there. It was a tough one. I thought you had it. Explain that and explain not getting the second 50,000. How did that sit with you?
Well, I mean, I didn't think I won, but I thought it was a draw. So it's funny. I'm a pretty humble kind of person. I don't know that I won. I definitely don't know that he won either. I thought that fight probably deserved to be a draw. And obviously, as a fighter, I would feel like I deserve the win. You know what I mean? But even if there's a chance that I didn't win it, I definitely didn't think he won it. So, but that's okay. Look, man, 2.5 kilos, or 2.3 kilos he missed weight by. It's a massive weight miss. It's not like he missed weight by 500 grams. It's not, I think anything under a kilo is like, okay, maybe I got a bit too dry and I just messed my weight cut up. But 2.2 kilos is just fucking lazy. And so anyway, there was no doubt in my mind I was going to take the fight. I thought that would be fine. I knew that he'd fought at welterweight before, and that there was a chance with that being his lightweight debut that, it might happen. So I'd already sort of made up my mind if it happened that's what I was going to do. But to the UFC's credit, they offered to pay me my purse if I didn't want to take the fight. But anyone that's in the industry knows that it's going to make it a little difficult to get another fight, or you're going to get handed to the wolves, so to speak, and not allowed to develop properly. So, I just took the fight, and we thought we had a good plan. Obviously, his chin held up like mine did, and we put on a performance of the year, like top 5 fight of the year. So it was rated number 5, top fights of the year for that year. So I'm pretty happy about that. So yeah, I did get offered money to not fight, but for me it was like, well, I'm here to compete. I want to fight. I've done training camp, and the money the UFC is paying, like, pretty much, if you get paid your purse, it pretty much covers like your fight camp and your time off work and stuff like that. You really need to fight for your win bonus.
Yeah.
So you make money. So anyway, we took the fight and we put on a cracker, and I lost a split decision. But that's the way it goes. Like I said, I thought that maybe I won a draw, and then afterwards, when I found out I won fight of the night, they actually announced, Karen Bryant announced on Fox that I'd won 100K.
Yeah, I do remember that. I messaged you in after.
I was like, fuck yeah, I just won 100K. Like, this is awesome. And it's US, right? So it was like 130, 140 grand. I was like, fuck, it's going to change my life. And then they re-announced afterwards that it was actually I won 50, and they didn't give me the other 50. Oh, man, I didn't really know. Like, it wasn't my money anyway, so it's not like they took anything off me. To Camacho's credit, he rallied hard for me to get paid that money. On Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, there was hundreds, thousands of comments and posts and reshares about me getting that money. I think I deserved it. It wasn't like a close miss. I think if I won, they probably would have paid it to me. They'd done it before that. They did it after it. Rob Whittaker, when Romero missed weight, Whittaker got 100 grand. Ryan Benoit got 100 grand. Ryan Benoit, I don't know. I think he either got 100 grand or he fought someone that missed weight and they got 100 grand. Like it's not like my fight was the only time that someone had missed weight and won a bonus, But I think it was the only time that the person didn't get the other person's money. I think I feel pretty strong. Frank's a really nice guy, but I feel pretty strong about people who miss weight, and I think the penalties are shit.
Yeah,
20% of fight purse only is ridiculous. He won. He got paid 12 and 12. He lost $3 grand. He should have lost 6. Yeah. And then I should have got at least 20% of the fight of the night bonus if they're giving it out as well. So I should have got at least 10 grand of that. In my opinion, I should have got 20% of everything he had the ability to earn for that fight.
Yeah, that's
Reebok bonus, fight of the night bonus, fight purse, win bonus. I should have got 20% of the lot. Every fighter should.
Yeah. Do you feel it's preferential treatment though? Do you feel that certain fighters get treated otherwise to other fighters? So like you said,
of course. I mean, Rob Whittaker got 100 grand, but he's fighting for the belt. He retained his belt, so they paid him Romero's 50 grand. Yeah, of course they get preferential treatment.
It's like you look at Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is ranked number 1 in the welterweight. He doesn't take the Hazmat fight. They take him off the rankings. You look at Yair Rodriguez. They apparently let him go based on not going by what Dana wants. So do you feel that?
Yeah, well, I mean, everything's geared towards the UFC looking after the UFC. So like UFC contracts have a clause in them that states that the UFC holds the right to release any fighter after any single loss. So you could have a 10-fight contract and lose your first fight, and they don't like you, so they just sack you. Do you know what I mean? Like, guys can't even fight out their 4 fights. So, I mean, they give them a good chance. I lost 3 in a row. They gave me a good chance. They signed me off the back of a knockout. I'm always appreciative, but I'm not an idiot, and I'm not afraid to at least say what I think is wrong. It doesn't mean that I was like I'm not bitter. I got treated well. I made good money, opened a nice gym. My life's good, man. You know what I mean? I made the most of the money that I got at the time. But I do think like the pressure that's put on a fighter to perform based on the fact they can be cut after any loss, that's ridiculous. I think the pressure put on a fighter to lose half their purse because they need to win to get it, that's ridiculous. There's not a single fighter in the world that goes in to lose. All that is that's just a
they hold a monopoly on the MMA circuit, the UFC, so they definitely do know how they've got you guys. Damien, we still got you, mate? We kind of froze, I think. I'm not too sure what's happening. Bit of technical difficulties here with Damien Brown, hoping to reconnect as soon as possible. Okay, we're back. Damien, we got you?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry, mate, just cut out a bit. So you were saying?
Okay. Yeah, so I just think that, like, no matter, I mean, there's always things that can be better. And no matter what company you work for, the contracts are always going to be geared towards the company. Do you know what I mean? They got to protect themselves. But they're so big that an individual athlete doesn't hold the power. So that's why fighters should unionize, because right now some get preferential treatment based on their star power, and that's normal. You know what I mean? And that's to be expected. And some get it based on their manager. I feel like when I got released that my manager didn't fight for me. That's why I don't have a manager anymore. Okay. That's why I'm managed by someone different. I feel like I got cut on the back. I signed a new deal, lost 2 split decisions, 1 fight of the night against someone who missed weight, and then got released. My manager should have fought for me, but he didn't. I think that, that's why people are trying to get the Ali Act in. That's why fighters should unionize, because at the end of the day, the ones that won't unionize are the ones that are making $10 million a fight.
Yeah.
It's the ones that they're sucking it up at 10 grand a fight that all need to band together.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's almost like they forget. Yeah, it's true. It's almost like they forget how they started out and before they started making the big dollars, and it's the forgetful nature of the human.
Look at Cajun Johnson. Man, he won like 5 fights in a row, and as soon as he lost, they cut his ass straight away, because he was heading up the union thing, and they don't want that.
Yeah. Mark Hunt as well.
He's heading it up and promoting it, and they just cut him as soon as he lost because it would have been in his contract.
Yeah, 100%.
So the power is always in their hands. But, I was always treated well. Sean Shelby treated me well. He told me he'd re-sign me no matter what happened with my fight in New Zealand, and I got knocked out. I looked good. I was winning the first round. I got knocked out at the end of it. It is what it is. That's for fight game. And he stuck to his word, and he re-signed me, and then I got the Camacho fight. And he said, he missed weight, you'll get another fight. I got another fight, So I was always looked after. I feel like I was not looked after by my manager. And I feel like, no matter how much you looked after, there's always things that can be done better.
Yeah, no, that's rightly so. And it's unfortunate that happened. But then you move on from the UFC to Rizin, which is the MMA leader in Japan. How was that transition? And how is fighting in front of a new market in Asia and in front of the Japanese?
It is awesome. It is awesome. If you could fight in the UFC in Japan all the time, you'd make good money and you'd be treated well. Japan's awesome, man. But Rizin, they are the best. I like them. Yeah. They treat me really well. I don't have to say nice things about them, man. I'm off contract, but they treat you really well, like they're really nice people. They really look after you. I asked when I was coming off a knee surgery, and I said, I want the biggest fight you guys can give me. And they gave me Darren Cruikshank, and he was on a 4-fight win streak at the time, and he'd stopped all 4 opponents. He was 8-2 or something since he left the UFC. He was a former top 15 in the UFC, and the dude's a stud. And they asked me if I wanted to fight him, and I was like, yep, let's do it. And they gave me 12 weeks notice. And I had literally the most horrible freaking weight cut I've ever experienced in my life. But we made the weight, and then I spent a good 4 or 5 hours throwing up. And anyway, we rehydrated, and then I won the fight by sub in the first 3 minutes. And it's funny because I was standing backstage, and if you weren't a fly on the wall or you weren't one of my coaches, you'd never believe it. But I literally told my coach he's going to shoot on me and I'm going to sub him. And he's like, my coach, Steve Compton, one of my coaches, he goes, look, man, don't worry about that. Don't worry about what can happen. Let's just take it as it comes, right? We've got a plan. We'll go out there. We'll execute it. We'll take it as it comes. Just feel it out. So, okay, no, he's going to shoot on me. He goes, don't worry about it, man. Stop thinking about it. And he's trying to talk me out of stopping to think about it, so I would focus on what I had to do and not think about him doing one thing. And anyway, sure as hell, like 3 minutes into the fight, he shot on me without setting the takedown up, exactly how we planned during camp. He won't set the takedown up. He throws strikes or he shoots, but he doesn't do both at the same time. He'll shoot with his head down. He always shoots with his head on the on my left-hand side, and he always does like a cartwheel pass to defend the guillotine. So all we had to do was catch the neck and put our foot in the air to stop the pass, and I'd get the sub because guillotines, front chokes are kind of like my jiu-jitsu game. So we knew if I stopped these pass that I would get the sub straight away. And that's exactly what happened, man. And I called it behind the curtain, and I did my walkout, and the fight happened exactly as we expected. So, it was an incredible debut for them guys. They gave me a backup fight just 3 months later, where I fought an undefeated Japanese guy. I feel for the guy, man. He was matched up in his own country on the biggest promotion in the country, one of the biggest in the world, and he was matched up against me. And I just felt like going into the fight that he didn't have the answer to my game. based on his inexperience. But, you know, he's gone on and won since then. So props to him. And then I got the GP spot, which we actually didn't think we were going to get. We got the call like 5 weeks out, you know, and yeah, the rest is history, man. And here we are today, 15 months after I had knee surgery a week after the GP fight. I went into it with a torn meniscus, and about 4 days after the fight, I was back in the gym and I completely ruptured it. So that's why we didn't really there wasn't many kicks in that fight from me anyway, because I couldn't kick. So I couldn't run, couldn't kick, couldn't jump, couldn't squat, couldn't do anything. So we had a boxing, wrestling game plan, and it just didn't work out for us. But that's the way it goes, man. $250,000 in a GP spot is pretty hard to give up. So
yeah, sometimes it's tough.
Didn't pay off. But yeah, you know, and I had knee surgery and I was ready to go at the start of the year last year, and then COVID just kicked in and took over the world.
Yeah, talk about COVID. Geez, I'm kind of sick of it. It's just something that hasn't gone away. It's like a leech. It's so annoying. So now,
yeah, man, I don't think it's going to go away.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. I think it's a new norm, mate, until this vaccine comes out. I just don't want to be HIV positive once I take it. So now that your contract's up with Rizin, what are we looking at in 21?
I mean, we're still talking to them. You know, the way Rizin do their deals is that they don't really keep people on contract like long term. You know, like the thing I like about them is, one, the promotion treats you well. 2, the Japanese people treat you well. 3, it's just over the water pretty much, so there's no jet lag. It's like a 4-day trip, man, and I'm back home. And 4, their contracts are exclusive only in Asia. So I can fight in Australia, I can fight in Europe, I can fight in America, I can fight for Bellator, all that sort of stuff. I can fight anywhere I want as long as I don't fight in Asia. So I really like that. You know, they look after you, they pay you well, but they don't lock you in long term. They give you contracts when they have fights. So, you know, my first contract was a 2-fight deal. I got Cruikshank, and then I had the following fight, and then I was off contract, and then they said, you know, we're going to give you another fight. We're going to give you another fight. So they tell me they're going to give me another fight. You know, if someone says that, I trust them. I don't go and jump ship and go to another promotion while I wait. So I waited a few months, and they gave me a contract for October for that GP. And that's a GP contract. So that's like every time you win, you contracted for the next fight kind of thing. But that's why a lot of people like Johnny Case made it to the semi-final, lost, signed with PFL the next day, because there's no
long-term.
There was no contracts afterwards.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, oh, you've been in our GP, so when you lose in the GP, you've got a 2-fight deal on this much money. They had no follow-up contracts, so everyone was a free agent, which is kind of cool, but not cool. It's like your future's not secure, but at the same time, you're not locked in. So, you know, like there's a lot of guys with COVID at the moment where they're in the middle of the pandemic and there's like they're contracted to PFL. PFL's not letting them fight. Yeah. You know, Brendan, I don't know how you say his last name, Longinen, whatever it is.
Yeah.
English guy, he travels around everywhere, man. He signed a PFL. He fought on the Contender Series, and Dana White didn't give him a contract because he took the guy down 10 seconds ago, but he beat the fucking shit out of him, man. One of the best featherweights in the world, and he's, you know, he's stuck in a contract with PFL and can't fight. So, you know, I feel for those guys. So that's why it's good with Rizin. You know, if they tell you they're going to give you another fight, then they're probably going to give you another fight. You just need to hang out for it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, that's good, mate. Rizin. So
maybe Paul Gallen might need a fight before that.
That's what it is. I think I was just going to set it up for you. Paul Gallen.
Yeah.
Damien beat down Brown.
Look, Gal, I'm walking around at about 85. You know, if you come under 100, I've always wanted an open weight fight before I finish my career. So maybe we can just make it an under 100 kilo boxing fight.
Mate, New South Wales versus Queensland. I don't know what more there is to say. Damien beat down Brown, mate. You're killing it. I think Paul Gallen is on the radar. We can get him, mate. We can get him.
Nah, he'll stay away from me, mate. I'm too fast.
That's what I think. You're an athlete. I think he avoids the athletes. He doesn't want Sonny. He doesn't want Damien. I think he takes a 46-year-old Mark Hunt. Now, Mark Hunt is a beast in the combat sporting world, but geez, Mark
fast,
Hunt,
man. Too fast.
That's what it is.
Paul Gallen doesn't want people in their prime, mate. Like I know he called out Robert Whittaker. That's ridiculous. Robert Whittaker will literally touch him up with a jab.
How realistic is Rob fight? He's called out Rob knowing he's never going to get that fight. Sure, UFC with how their contracts are, they're not going to let someone make money and they're not making money off him.
Look at it this way. He's a number one contender at middleweight.
Yeah.
All right. He is number one contender at middleweight. The middleweight champ, Israel Adesanya, is fighting the light heavyweight champ, which means there's no title fight in the next 6 months. And it wouldn't be unreasonable. Conor McGregor did it. It wouldn't be unreasonable for the UFC to go, well, if you can make $1.5 million in a boxing fight, then we're going to let you box, but you've got to box before April. They've done it before.
No, they have. So, they're making ridiculous amount of money. They definitely would want part of the purse, and they definitely want to be a part of the promotion, though. So that's where it comes to the UFC.
Of course, but it's complicated. But I think that it could happen. I just think that it's very unlikely that it'll happen. But
I don't see where Rob
Adesanya's fighting for the light heavyweight title. I think there's a chance that it could happen. But I think that Rob would just in and out and just jab him constantly. Yeah. And Gallen's only option would be to walk into everything until he catches him. Gal doesn't want that. Gal doesn't want that smoke.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. Look, I don't think he's getting Rob Whittaker. I think Damien Beatdown Brown has definitely set out the call out. Let's see if we get a response from Paul Gallen.
Give him a call, mate.
We're gonna cut the snippets. We're gonna put it on Instagram, mate. Paul Gallen, we're coming for you, mate. Damien Brown, Paul Gallen, 21. Let's make it happen.
We need to do something in Australia, don't we?
Hey, listen.
I can't travel at the moment.
100%. Why not?
I can't travel to Sydney at the moment either. So, fucking who knows?
We might have to come up to Brisbane, but the Indian cricket team don't want to come to Brisbane. I don't think anyone wants to come up to Brisbane.
Well, it's weird, right? Because we've got no COVID, so everyone should want to come to Brisbane.
Hey, look, we're coming for the fights, mate. We're coming. Paul Gallen, Damien Beatdown Brown. Mate, it's been a pleasure speaking to you.
No, man. Thank you, man. Good luck with the podcast.
Thanks, champion. Honestly, pleasure. Pleasure's all mine.
No worries, man.
Have a good one. Take care, mate. Thanks. Bye.